Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where I've decided to get rid of the whole surface shader here. Let's make our own, shall we? Okay, so first off, we're going to make a shader and we're going to call it... This isn't just going to be the water material, actually. So, you know, now that I think about it, I'm just going to completely close this. I'm going to go into our shaders here, delete the water material shader, and we are just going to start completely over with a standard surface shader, and I'm going to call it ground shader. Now this is going to be used for a lot of things, and I actually kind of don't want to use any of this. Let's just write it completely from scratch. So, shader, ground shader. So this will be a multi-purpose shader, and this will be able to be used for both ground and water, and this will allow us to do some interesting things as far as coloration and such. So let's go ahead and do properties, and these properties are going to contain a color, main color. Actually, I'm going to go with vertex color. This is going to be a vertex colored shader. So we're going to go with a color type, and we're going to default that to white. There we go. And then we're going to do a diffuse text, diffuse texture. This is going to be a 2D map, and that's going to be just a simple diffuse map, like so. Okay, so that is going to be essentially a detail map that we can put onto it. And then we're going to have another one here, bump map, and that's going to be normal map, 2D, again, this is going to be of type bump, and there we go. And then finally, this isn't actually the end, but we're going to have a bump scale here, and this is going to be of type scale. This is going to be a range between, say, 0 and 10, I think. And we'll have it default to be 1. And actually, this needs to be on the other side of this parenthesis. There we go. Okay, so we've got ourselves some properties here. Now, we are going to need at least one more round of bump maps. So let's go for detail bump map, detail bump map, and that's also going to be 2D, and that's going to be also bump. Not actually sure if that'll work, but we'll find out. And then finally, bump scale, and that is going to simply be detail bump scale, and we should probably call this detail bump scale. Otherwise, we're going to have issues. Of type 2D, it's a 2D texture map, and that equals 1.0. Okay, so what else are we going to need here? Well, maybe some offset, or maybe not offset. How do I want to do that? Do I want to do it via C# script, or do I want to do it directly in the shader? I think we should definitely have ourselves a float variable here. And that should probably be... Well, actually, we can make it be a range, but let's have it be something along the lines of flow speed. And this is simply going to be a normal flow speed, and then this can be a range. Well, it could be a float, I suppose. I don't really mind one way or the other. We can have it be a float, and let's have it default to 0. We'll have it default to not floating at all. So as of right now, all we have is a group of properties, and I think that's not going to be very functional. Yeah, parse error. Shader is not supported on this GPU. Oh no. That's because we haven't written it yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and go for a sub-shader here. Oh boy. Fix that. There we go. And let's go for some tags. Now, this is not ever going to be transparent, so we're going to go for a simple tag of render type, not renter type, render type, and that's going to be opaque. I don't think we need any more tags as of right now. LOD 250 should be plenty. So that's just level of detail information. I don't know if we'll actually use it, but I'll toss it in there. And at that point, let's start our CG program. I don't think we need anything else really. So let's get ourselves some declares here. So we'll do a pragma call, and this will be surface, surf, standard, full forward shadows. Like so. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to need a couple of variables here. So we're for sure going to be needing a sampler 2D. And this will be our diffuse text. Okay. Visual Studio decided to indent this in a weird way when I did that. Don't do that, Visual Studio. We were fine the way we were. Okay, so sampler 2D diffuse text. I am going to go ahead and toss in an extra line there, though. We'll also need a sampler 2D, and this will need to be our bump map. We will need another one for our... Hang on, I typoed that. For our detail bump map. Okay, and then... Let's see, what else do we need here? We need our vertex color, so let's grab our fixed 4 color. Okay, and we also need our scales, now that I think about it. So let's go for a float, and we will go for bump scale right here. And then down here, we will go for float detail bump scale. Okay. And then as far as anything else goes, this is just going to be a surf function. We're not going to do vertex and fragment. We're just going to have a bit of a surf. So this won't be too bad. I'm going to do a struct input for what we put into this. And what are we going to need? Well, we are definitely going to need our UV map. So float to UV. We'll call this UV bump map. It's not strictly going to be a bump map necessarily, but we'll also need our float 4 color of type color. Okay, I think that's all we need for right now. So, we then need to have a bit of offset, but I'm not sure we need a variable for that just now. We'll get back to that, I think. So let's go ahead and do our void surf. Input in out is going to be surface, output standard O. Okay, so these are just, you know, standard boilerplate for shaders here. Let's go ahead and toss in a fallback out here, just in case we have errors. Fallback, and let's just go for something really simple. Vertex lit. There we go. So theoretically, this will now output something, but we have no NCG tag, so we have an error instead. Let's put in our NCG tag, end CG, right there. Okay, we have an unexpected tval number, expecting tval string in line 10. What's wrong with line 10? Is it upset about the bump? What if I call it det bump? I have no idea if that'll work or not. No, that looks the same. Okay. Let's go ahead and clear that and make sure that it's re-imported. So let's go ahead and re-import it and see what we've got. Syntax error, or rather a shader error, parse error, unexpected tval number in line 10, expecting a tval string. Okay. That's a little weird. Line 10, it's this one. Oh, of course. Detail bump scale isn't 2D. What am I talking about? This is a range. 0.0, 10.0. There we go. That should work a little bit better. Okay, unexpected equals in line 10 as well. Because we are missing a parenthesis. You good with that? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so obviously we've still got some issues. Internal shader error. Yeah, that's because I want you to be running the ground shader. Okay. And actually, this isn't our vertex color. What am I talking about? This is more along the lines of base color than vertex color. Our vertex color comes from the mesh, so we don't need to mess with that. This can go ahead and be white. Now, obviously, this is just outputting black right now because we aren't actually outputting anything. So let's go ahead and output some things. So first thing that we're going to do for sure is we're going to do O.albedo. And that's going to be the albedo is essentially just the color that we see. It doesn't have anything to do with lighting, it's just the color of the mesh at the particular point. This is like where we apply the textures and things like that. So O.albedo equals text2D, and I'm going to do our diffuse text here, and then we're going to grab our bump map UV. It doesn't matter that it's a bump map UV as opposed to a regular UV. We're just looking for a UV here. And then we're going to multiply that by our vertex color. So in.color.rgb. And then we're also going to multiply that by our base color. So color.rgb. So that will allow us to do some interesting things. Like, for example, as you can see right now, we have a gray color. We can recolor that to be a red color. Now, it is multiplied by the vertex colors of this mesh, and if we were to not do that, it might do some interesting things. So, for example, if we were to comment out right here. Okay, there actually aren't any vertex colors on this mesh. Never mind, disregard that. Okay, so we now have ourselves an albedo, but we need a normal map. So we can have our albedo be, you know, I don't know, kind of a grayish color. Now, it does bear noting that we don't have any of our specularity going on here. We'll add specularity here in a bit. Actually, O.specular is, I believe, what it is, and we'll just equal that to 1.0. We'll see what that does. For right now. We'll adjust that here in a moment. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Invalid subscript specular. I need to check what all of the surface output standard is. 1 second here. Surface output standard. I'm trying to remember what all of the half specular power in 0 to 1 range. Okay, yeah, so why is this saying invalid subscript specular at line 41? O.specular is what we're looking for then. And we also need O.gloss is the specular intensity. We'll go with 1.0 for right now. Emission is the color, and then the only other thing we'll need to do is, for right now, I'll comment it out, O.normal, and that's where we're going to do a little bit more work. But for right now, O.specular equals 1.0, O.gloss equals 1.0, but we're still getting that shader error on line 41 from O.specular, and I'm not sure why that's giving us an error for an invalid subscript. Oh, wait. we're not using surface output. We're using surface output standard. That's right. Okay, so in that case, we need to be going for O.metallic. And gloss is not used in surface output standard, so we can comment that one out. The other one that we want is O.smoothness. Okay, there we go. We don't need occlusion. Everything else there is fine. We can get rid of gloss. So we're using metallic and we're using smoothness. And there you can see we actually have ourselves a bit of specularity, which is nice. And I'm going to go ahead and create ourselves some controls for that. So let's go ahead and do metallic. Metallic. This can be a range from 0 to 1. And we're going to have that default to be 0. And instead of hard coding in our metallic, I'm going to use our metallic variable, but we'll need to create ourselves one up here to grab it. So float, I keep wanting to do 2 T's for some reason. Float metallic, there we go. So now we have ourselves a metallic control. Control at 0, control at 1. And I like it at 0 because water isn't very metallic. Excellent. So we've got ourselves a metallic control. And let's go ahead and give ourselves a, what was it called? Smoothness. Smoothness control. Okay. Smoothness. Now, the question that I have is, what is the range on smoothness? Oh, actually, it says right here in the documentation. By the way, for the record, I'm looking at this page for the documentation. I guess I didn't move that onto my main monitor. But this is where I'm getting the information. So you can see here smoothness ranges from 0 equals rough to 1 equals smooth. So we can do a smoothness range from 0 to 1. And we will have it default to 0. And then down here, well, down here, we can go ahead and put ourselves a float smoothness. There we go. And we will just grab that instead of using a hard-coded number. Smoothness, apparently. Smoothness. Nope, snoothmiss. That's what it is now. It is now snoothmiss. Oh boy. Okay. So with that, we can now adjust our smoothness. Very nice. That looks great. I like it right around 0.75, maybe? Maybe 0.7 for right now. Okay, so now we just need to apply ourselves our normal map. I'm going to go ahead and reset the offsets there. Now, not all of these normal maps will actually be used. This one is currently the large one. Let's go ahead and implement that. So let's pop into here. And the question then becomes, well, how are we going to do that? The answer is very simply with just the normal map. So let's go ahead and do unpack normal. And we're going to do a text 2D from the bump map. And we're going to grab the in UV, so in UV bump map, not vump map, bump map. Wow, I cannot type all of a sudden. And we're going to multiply that by the bump scale. Okay, so that will give us our bump map statically for this normal map. And there it is. So you can see there that we have our large waves, and we can adjust the scale here. It doesn't like to work much beyond 0 and 1, but that's fine. We don't need to change that right now. So the next thing we need to do is we need to have ourselves have our normal, or our second normal map, and we need to have the ability to have it scroll by based on time. So the question then becomes, how do we do that in the surface shader? Well, that's a good question, and I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that one quite yet. So let's go ahead and check here and see what we've got for a surface function. we need to be offsetting based on a couple of things. So I think what we probably want to do... Wait, where are they? Hang on. I'm looking at something on my second monitor here. In fact, I'm looking at this on my second monitor for ideas on how to handle that. I'm wondering where they're getting this time variable. Maybe that's why they're getting undefined variable errors. Because I don't see them declaring time anywhere here. But it could be that that's something that's just built in. And if so, then that's definitely what we want to use. So we've got our flow speed here. And I also want to figure out what unpack normal returns, what type. So let's see, that's a fixed 4. Unity stores its normal maps as DXT5NM. That's fine. But what I'm asking is, what does this function return? The function returns something. Is it just a fixed 4? Fixed 4 is a packed normal. Let's find out. Fixed 4, normal. Does that error? Yes, it does. Cannot convert from const float 3 to half 4. Okay. So, is it a half 4 or is it a float 3? I think it's a float 3. Float 3? Yeah, it's a float 3. Okay. Excellent. So with it being a float 3, the question then becomes, how are we going to manage this? Well, there are a couple of ways we can potentially do this. And I think I'm going to go back to o.normal. I just wanted to see what type unpack normal returns. Because there is another thing that we can do. We can then potentially add this to our other normal map. And I'm not sure if we want to add or multiply, but we'll find out. Unpack normal, text 2D, and we want to grab our detail bump map, and then we'll do it from in.uv bump map, and we will multiply that by detail bump scale. Not like that works or anything, but it'll be fine. What could go wrong here? Okay, I think we already have... Okay, so this here needs another parenthesis. I think we're now good on parentheses. Okay, so that didn't work. At least, it didn't because we didn't have a texture chosen. Hey! Okay, that's basically what I expected to see right there. Fantastic. Yep, that's pretty much exactly what I expected. So now we need to just set the offset here. So let's go ahead and do something here to affect the UVs, I believe, is what we want to do. So let's go ahead and find ourselves where we do that. So it would probably be changing this, the in.uv bump map. So what does that return? Is that a float 3 as well? Float 3. And let's say, what do we want to call this? Normal UV equals in.uv bump map. Is that correct? Float 3? No, it's a float 2. Okay, that's fine. I can work with that. Excellent. Okay, and then instead of using this, what if we were to use normal UV? No change. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so what if we now do something along the lines of this? Normal UV.x plus equals something along the lines of Let's do... We should grab... Actually, we need a float here, don't we? Yeah, we do. We did not do this. So float, flow speed. There we go. Grab that. Plus equals flow speed. And then we'll multiply that by time. I'm not sure if that's actually going to work. But let's find out. Is that going to work? Maybe. Maybe not. It didn't throw an error, which is interesting. Oh, because we're on flow speed 0. Hang on. Let's do a flow speed of 1. Oh, did you see that? Nice. What about a flow speed of 0.25? I do believe it actually works. Kinda. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So, with that happening, that is a very, very good step. Let's go ahead and do normal uv.y as well. So now it'll flow a bit more diagonally. We can set up some controls to determine what direction we want it to flow. But now it'll flow in both directions, x and y. Excellent. And then I want the... Actually, let's go ahead and get a... Let's change this to flow speed. We'll leave it where it is, but we'll change the name up here to normal flow speed large. And then duplicate this line and go to a second flow speed, and we'll call this normal flow speed small. And I'll just call it small speed. And then we will get ourselves a float, small speed. Excellent. And then we will essentially duplicate this, except I want to rename this from normal UV to large UV. There we go. And this from normal UV to small UV. There we go. Flow speed times time, and we want this to always be going opposite directions, probably. However, I do want flow speed to be cut in half for the small speed. So flow speed times 0.5, and same thing here, times 0.5. And the large UV will be for the large, and the low UV, or the small UV, will be for the small waves. Let's see how that works. And actually, we do have the separate flow speed. What am I talking about? We can just small speed, so we can adjust it at any time. I don't know why I forgot that I did that like 4 seconds ago, but there we go. Excellent. So with that, I'm going to have this be at 0.125. And let's just run it. Nice. Yeah, that looks really nice. I like that a lot. That looks fantastic. And then we can adjust the flow speeds pretty substantially. We can invert it so that the small ones are flowing faster and the large ones are flowing slower, which I think looks a little bit better. And we can change the specularity of it to make it be, you know, a little bit more watery. And we can change the color of it if we so desire. Make it a little more green, a little more blue. Nice. Nice. I like it. I'm very happy with that. Okay, so there's that material done. Next episode, we will go about actually applying this and making ourselves some actual water in the map. See you all then.